Hi, everybody. Welcome again to the John and Aaron Show. Do we have a good name for it yet?
I don't believe
Still,
so.
I don't know what it's going to be called. Anyway, talking about Salina issues again. We're going to try and keep this message very clear and very quick, I guess. Trying to keep these videos under 5 minutes. John, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I don't know. You want to follow up on some of our former topics, or you want to start something new?
I think something new. You know, the baseball field is obviously that's become a new thing that all of a sudden has really gained a lot of traction. I think it ties in a lot to what we had been talking about before. A lot of what we focus on is the city's spending and how we can't be a wealthy community if all our future dollars are in debt and everything like that. So to begin, you've done a little research on youth sports and baseball, and let's just preface this by saying at least I don't. You were a baseball guy. I played a little baseball when I was a kid. We don't really focus so much whether this baseball thing is needed or not needed or whatever. I know that people say, "Oh, the fields are horrible," but they never played on the fields we played on when we were kids. You know what I mean? I think the fields are pretty darn good for what they are. We can't, be major league to all things. Everybody always has a desire to have something better.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, I guess. To me, it's not so much about the baseball field so much as the spending patterns of the city. We can talk a little bit more about the baseball fields and what we think whether it's a good idea or not after this. But I think what we've been discussing is, we just spent $12 million some. I don't know how much of it was city funding, but on our field house, which thus far has yet to show any success of any substance compared to what we were told it was going to be. At that time, you and I both, and a couple of other commissioners, questioned the legitimacy of the need for it. It had not appeared on our capital improvement projects to-do list, our future list. We talked about that in another video.
Which is the same with the ball fields.
Right. And so, and neither is the ball fields. Neither one of them were identified. And if they're so important, now people will argue, well, it's because you have some private donors willing to step up and put the money, so that's a good time for the city to do it. I don't always agree with that. I don't think just because somebody puts in some dollars, even if we're talking $4 million, that it's necessarily a good idea for the city to kick in another $4 million. Where I'm going with this whole thing is, which was it? Was the field house going to bring all these people into this line and all this stuff? Was it the baseball field? And if it was the baseball field, why the hell weren't the baseball people standing up saying we don't need this field house? It's just a good example of you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours, and the taxpayer will get screwed.
Right.
So to me, it's more about that. It's like, how much can we spend? We are 61st, I think, in the state in income generating out of 105 counties. We're 61st, I think, somewhere in there. The data changes roughly, but let's just say we're not in the top third, as some city commissioners would say. No. We are very low on income generating. We have relatively high, let's not say taxes. They like to point out that our tax rate isn't that high. But we have overvalued properties in a lot of instances. People like to say, oh, it's way too much for my house. Well, that's how they hide your taxes. They overvalue your houses, and they can say, oh, our tax rate's in line with other cities our size. So there's ways to hide that. So to me, if the city is so flush with cash, why have we never fixed the swimming pool, which was put in well before our time? One of the main features of the swimming pool has never been repaired.
You're talking about Kenwood Cove.
Kenwood Cove.
Okay.
Has never been repaired.
Well, when they opened Kenwood Cove, and I can't remember what the name of the ride was, because I'm not a patron, but you're right. One of the feature attractions at Kenwood Cove has never operated. It has a liner that has never properly worked, and so here we go and spend nearly $12 million at the time for a water park, and it isn't even fully functional.
Right.
So but do we fix that before we build more stuff?
No, that wouldn't be the Salina way. And the other thing that was promised to a lot of the people that were doing the swimming pool, remember there was a private group that was trying to put together a competition-sized swimming pool that they've left room for, I think, on the north kind of west side of the pool, so to add a competition thing. So, we haven't even addressed that. And so I think that takes us back to, why the hell do we keep building all of this stuff when it's not even fixed? And we just got a city report, consultants were hired, that said our parks are $6 million behind in maintenance. And if you look at them, again, this is nothing against the city crew that takes care of them. They're just understaffed. They don't have the money to do it. And it's not their fault. They're doing the best they can with the resources they have. But we need to fix, as I said when I got in office, and I think pretty much you did too, fix what we have first before we go spending a bunch of money. So we just gave $500,000, not as some tax abatement, but $500,000 cash to a private developer for income qualified housing, which goes directly in competition of all the landlords and investors in this community who have to pay taxes on their property to give this money to these people. Now people are asking for $4 million for this baseball diamond. To me, that's $4.5 million. You're $1.5 million away from fixing up our parks.
Here's part of the rub. If you're going to say, let's spend $4 million here and $1.5 million here, let's don't forget we're putting $1.5 million into public art.
Oh, right, for the downtown
on
project.
Santa Fe.
Right.
Oh, probably I think it's actually closer to $2 million for public arts. People lost their minds on like $350,000 for artwork out south, the molars.
The molars, the meth mouth.
And I got to tell you, not a peep. And you have people that have run for office and said, hey, we got to start looking out. But here's what we always hear. We always hear that, oh, don't raise our taxes, don't do that. But you know what? We are.
Right.
I'll tell you what, we went from 2008, $32 million in bonded debt. We've doubled that in less than 8 years.
Right.
Okay? By taking on the River Project, by taking on downtown, and taking on a few other big projects, we are going to be approaching $100 million in bonded debt. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Right. But
here's the problem. If you're not going to cut something, then you need to prioritize something. We have not done that. We continue to spend and then spend and spend. And part of the problem, I believe, is this, is that we have a champagne appetite and a beer budget.
No, I'd say we have a water budget.
Well, watered down beer.
Watered down beer. Yeah.
Cereal malt beverage.
Near beer.
Cereal malt beverage.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and why I say that is this, is we feel like we have to keep up with the Joneses. Well, you know what? Here's the problem. We're not as flush as the Joneses. We can't keep up with the Joneses.
Exactly.
You know, we need to get to a point where, and maybe we need Dr. Phil on one of these shows, but we need to get Celina to the point where Celina feels really good about herself, and Celina feels really good about being a really good Celina. Because I'll tell you what, you have people in this community that will complain and complain and complain about the working class stiff. Right? It's like going, oh, well, geez, those people, blah, blah, blah. You know, we're the successful ones. Blah, 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 blah. And you know what? They will complain about hardworking people and complain that, oh, they're rednecks and people don't, you know, they make us look bad and all this stuff because they're always complaining about, you know, I can't afford this and my taxes are too high. And you know what? They are. We got a lot of people on fixed incomes. And you know what? We got a lot of working class. It's a blue-collar community.
It is a blue-collar community.
And I got to tell you, those people, that working class people in this town, are so disrespected by these people until they want to put their hand out and put their hand in your pocket and take away your tax dollars. Oh, we'll pay half of the goodies that we want. You know what? I got an idea. Why don't you pay for all of it? Because I got to tell you something. You know what? It's not the poor kids in town that go on these traveling teams and play in, you know, the field house and on these AstroTurf ball fields and you know, we can't have fake dirt because the snowflakes don't want to get their pants dirty. You know, that kind of stuff. And it's like, you know what, a lot of people are kind of tired of that. You know what? Yeah, back in the day, we had a sticker or two on the field. But hell, I'll be honest with you, man. I tried hard, but I never dove for a ball. I mean, come on, man. I wasn't trying that hard.
I was out in the outfield throwing my glove up in the air.
I was like, you know, most of the time I wasn't even paying attention.
Kids at my age couldn't hit the ball.
I was like chewing on the edge of my glove. And,
typical.
But you know what? That's the thing. It's like we disregard and we treat people like garbage until we want something from them. Hey, we only want half. It's like going, do you have any idea what that really is? And if you know, if you really wanted it and you really needed it, you know what you do? You'd put that together yourself and do it, because you're right. We were promised a whole laundry list of how great this field house was going to be and how many people were going to come. And,
it was going to spur
and I have to tell you, I did a spreadsheet, and if anybody wants to in the next few days, check out my Facebook page. It's John Blanchard, Community Activist, and it's on Facebook. And you can find links probably on Aaron's page or
Aaron Householder, nice guy,
or Go3 page, Go3 Productions. But I've laid out. I've gone to the city commission and said, hey, can you give us some idea about who's coming to these events and what numbers and what they're spending? And they could never put it together. So I went ahead and did it myself. So I'm going to make that. We're going to have that information available. But the bottom line is that just like the field house, this baseball field project is being rolled out as if we build it, they will come.
Dude, how many
times? And you know what?
Yeah.
They're not going to.
Two things I can guarantee you. If you try and do anything to a street, close it, modify it, do anything, everybody says, don't do that, my kids play in the street.
Right.
If somebody wants money for something, be it a train museum, be it a baseball field, a field house, whatever else, it's always going to be the savior of Salina. A $350,000 set of bad teeth down in South Salina.
Right.
This will draw the kind of people in that we want.
Right.
This is how we'll keep doctors and lawyers. You know how you keep doctors? Having doctor jobs. You know how you keep engineers? Having engineer jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, look.
Well, we're doing pretty good about keeping the doctors because you know what? When we build these baseball fields, when the participation rate in the last 8 years drops 25%, our kids are getting more obese earlier and dropping out of athletics and not being healthy. That's how we keep doctors.
Yeah, but now they'll argue that, well, we need to build this thing. No, what you need to do is be a parent. Stop sticking your kids in sports and forgetting about them, or trying to live a life that you never succeeded at when you were young. That's my
I tell you what,
glory days.
I'm
gonna pass you by.
I know.
Oh, I'm gonna live vicariously through my kid. He's gonna be a big superstar. Let's just talk about that for a minute.
I tell you what, let's do that.
How many big super baseball or football stars have come out of this community?
Okay, that's
Pat Mears.
All right, yeah.
Okay, how many football people have we had come out? Maybe 3, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Okay,
Terrence Newman.
Let's talk about people who are leading for like cancer drugs.
K-Stater.
Yeah, and so let's talk about our intellectuals, our playwrights. We've had 3 people.
We've had a few. I don't. We want to keep this short.
We want to stay on focus, but I'm just saying the point of the matter is we've had more people leave this city in the intellectual arts and doing things successfully that way. Don't get me wrong.
I agree.
Physical fitness is important, but nobody built a $12 million science lab or something for these kids. We sit here and we expect that these kids are going to do all these sports and stuff, but we don't care about them intellectually.
Well, we don't. I mean, we don't. I mean, we do in some instances.
Yeah, look, we do.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay.
We care about your kids' smart.
Well,
65% of our property taxes go into your kids.
There are patches in the community that do. I think we do. I think we do a good job of art and theater education.
Right.
I think that those are pretty strong fields. But you know what? We're not building
education centers like that.
We're not building the facilities commensurate with what we are for athletics. I think you're right. Hey, let's cut this let's cut this short.
Yeah.
Pretty close here because there's going to be a lot of information that come up on these ball fields and stuff. And just as a preview, I want to say what I want to talk about next on these ball fields is I want to talk about the idea of learning from our past mistake with the field house because I made a big mistake on that field house. I should have been more forceful in saying no. And I will tell you this, we have an opportunity to correct that, and that is to let the people vote on whether or not they want this or not. There's a mechanism by which that can happen, and I want to maybe devote another show coming up to that. And so if anybody wants to hear that, let us know. But I got to tell you, people are going to Facebook, people are going to social media, people are calling into radio stations and doing other things. And if you're for this project, then it's great. You keep doing that. You keep calling into those too. But I'll tell you what, those of you that feel like you don't have a voice, you do. And it's up to you whether or not you exercise it or not. And we'll help you get your voice heard if you want. So hopefully we can help provide a vehicle for that.
Right. And again, it's not so much that we're against one thing or the other, although I would like to see us focus a little bit more on intellectualism and creative arts. But so much as the city is spending money like a drunken sailor, and we need to get that under control. And Joe Hay in particular, when he was running for office, of course, he said all the stuff that people who don't know any different are running for office.
But
say.
we're gonna talk about that
Yeah.
because I think Joe is going to be a big supporter of let the people vote.
I hope so. Oh.